Good morning, Dr. Keesha Ewers here. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's time for the Wednesday Wellness Tip, and today I want to talk about Hashimoto's disease. So, you know that I'm the author of Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle, and one of the things I talk about in that book is that all autoimmune diseases can be put in one bucket if we think about them in the way that autoimmune disease actually manifests itself. So, if we think about this, the word autoimmune means we're attacking us, right? A body at war with itself can't win. Now, with the way we think about it in the Western model is we say, okay, it's attacking, the immune system is attacking the thyroid, so it's an autoimmune disease of the thyroid when we talk about Graves or Hashimoto's. In rheumatoid arthritis, which is what I had 23 years ago, it's a joint disease. The immune system is attacking the joints. If we think about MS, it's the immune system is attacking the central nervous system. If we talk about, you can go on and on and on. And mixed connective tissue, right? Disease is going to be those connective tissues. So one of the things that I want everyone to understand first as we talk about Hashimoto's is that actually I'm going to be giving some very specific things for the thyroid today. But when we talk about autoimmune disease in general, what we're really wanting to do is have the body and the mind and the heart and the spirit make friends with each other, to work together collaboratively instead of attacking each other. So when we think about it in that way, then we can think about the immune system as like an archer with a bow and arrow, and it's letting those arrows go, and the target tissue, which could be the thyroid or the kidneys or the mixed connective tissues or the brain or whatever it is that's being attacked, would be the target, right? That's the target organ or tissue. But the immune system is the archer. And what we really want to do, instead of going around and trying to move around the target all the time, we want to ask the archer to put down the arrows. So as we talk about Hashimoto's, I want you to first, that's what we're doing, is we're getting on the same page about what autoimmune disease is. Now let's go to that target tissue and talk about the thyroid, in particular, talking about Hashimoto's. So if you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, what's going to happen is your autoimmune markers around your thyroid are going to be elevated. That can be your thyroid peroxidase autoantibody. And if that TPO level is high, then that means that a hypothyroid condition that you might have is actually an autoimmune issue. Now, most hypothyroidism we're now finding is autoimmune in nature. So we really want to understand it's not just about taking, my dog's playing with a squeaky toy. Come here. It's not just about taking a thyroid medication like levothyroxine or Synthroid. It's actually about helping the immune system recover itself. All right, hang on. I have to take a time out and get my dog's squeaky toy. Come here. Okay, so back to the lab work. Oftentimes what will happen is only the TSH, or the thyroid stimulating hormone, is checked. And you can't understand what's going on at the root of the problem for Hashimoto's if all you're doing is checking a TSH. We really want to know how the conversion of T4 to T3 is going. So we want to know what your free T3 and free T4 levels are, reverse T3, and your TSH and TPO. So that's what you want to ask your medical provider to do for you. Now, let's go to reversing it, because once you get a diagnosis, if you go on the internet, what you're going to find is it's going to tell you, for the most part, that iodine is bad. If you look under natural cures, and we're going to talk a little bit about iodine, you're also going to find out that the advice is to go on a thyroid medication, because eventually your immune system is going to wipe out your thyroid, so you may as well start supporting your thyroid now. That's actually completely inaccurate. In my practice, we reverse everybody's Hashimoto's. I mean, it just doesn't stay. My office manager had it, it's reversed. It's been gone for years. My husband had it, so in my family too. We reversed it, within just a few months. So it's really, really possible to get your Hashimoto's reversed. You do not have to survive Hashimoto's, thrive with Hashimoto's. You don't have to adapt your life to Hashimoto's. What you do need to do is start getting into a collaborative relationship with your body and finding out the why you have the Hashimoto's question, and then how you can reverse it with these natural ways. So why is a really important question. And when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I asked myself, why? Why do I have this? So if you read Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle, which I'm highly going to recommend, because in this Facebook Live, I'm not going to be able to go through everything, I talk about my freedom framework method that I use. And the reason I call it a framework is because we're actually framing in the puzzle of how to reverse any autoimmune disease, not just Hashimoto's. And when you think about a puzzle, it has 4 corners, right? As you're beginning, hi Shelly, as you're starting to solve your puzzle. And those 4 corners are going to be your genetics, your exposure to toxins, your digestive health, and past trauma or current stress. So all of those actually play a part in Hashimoto's and every other autoimmune disease. So you have to address all 4 of them in the same way at the same time. Then the other edge pieces of that puzzle are going to be looking at the root causes from the physical perspective, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual, as well as your story. And then you're going to do lab work. So the lab work that you're going to want your provider to do are those thyroid ones that we just talked about that are thyroid specific, but you also want to look at your genetics. And I do a ton of genetic testing in my practice for this reason. You also want to look at metabolites in your body. What are the engines in your body that aren't running efficiently? That's another really important one to do. You're going to want to look at your adrenal glands, because for the thyroid, the flip side of them is the adrenal glands. So your thyroid is part of your entire endocrine system, starting with your brain, your pituitary, going all the way down to your ovaries or your testes if you're a man. So really important to look at the entire endocrine system, not just at the thyroid, because it doesn't operate by itself in a vacuum, which is the way we want to do it in Western medicine. We want to kind of isolate everybody and silo them. But actually, there's nothing in the body that's siloed. So you want to do those tests. You also want to look at your microbiome. Who's living in there? Because 60, 70, we even think sometimes 80% of your immune system is run by the little microbes that live in your digestive system. So that's why Ayurvedic medicine, the 5,000-year-old sister science of yoga said, all health and wellness and disease begin in the gut. And Chinese medicine says that. Western medicine says that. Hippocrates said that. So really important that we really dial in who we have on board in there and what they're doing. So a good stool test is really important too. So those are the places that I start. And then there are other places to go after that, but that's kind of first round. Now, natural ways of reversing your Hashimoto's. There are a couple of very specific things that you can do. Now, I talked about stress and past trauma. So one of the things that we learn in our early childhood days is how to manage our stress, including how to breathe. Now, this is interesting because a lot of times we don't think about breathing as something we have to really think about. It's an involuntary system, and you're going to breathe until you die. But the way that you breathe and the quality of your breath is really important. And you can consciously breathe in specific ways that can heal specific parts of your body. Now, this comes from, again, the world of Ayurvedic medicine. So pranayama is called conscious breathing, if you translate it from Sanskrit. And there's a very specific, wonderful pranayama that you can do for your thyroid, specifically Hashimoto's. Now, you think about where your thyroid is located, it's here. And on both sides of it are your vocal cords. So there's a really wonderful pranayama exercise I'm going to teach you right now. And if you're not driving, you can do this with me. There's a variation you can do even if you're driving. So I'll give you both variations, the hands-on and the hands-free. So this is called Bhramari. Bhramari means bumblebee breath. And if we do bumblebee breath twice a day in the number of repetitions I'm going to teach you, this is a really wonderful thyroid balancing pranayama, even reversing autoimmune disease. So what it's doing is you're actually humming or chanting, you could say, the word Om through your nose. So the way that it looks is like this, and you have to do it as loud as you possibly can because you're vibrating the little vocal cords, right? And you're bringing oxygenated blood to the thyroid region and bathing it. Hi, Susan, with oxygenated blood. Susan, I'm just going to stop this for just 1 second and talk to her. Monday morning for the Mystic Medicine message, I'm actually using that beautiful tree of life that you sent me, and it's going to be the focal point of my message. So I just want to thank you for that beautiful necklace. I don't think I've done it on Facebook Live, so I wanted to tell you that. And Shelly, I have this amazing bracelet from you. You guys have both given me amazing jewelry. So Shelly, I just had to stop Facebook Live to get the squeaky toy away from my dog. She gave me this great little bracelet that's got little dog bones on it. I love it. I wear it all the time. So anyway, back to Brahmari. So Brahmari is bumblebee breath. So when you do this bathing of the thyroid with oxygenated blood and vibrating those vocal cords, you're actually also, it's going to feel like you have a bumblebee in your head. And it's a beautiful pranayama to do just before meditation because it's as if all of that vibration in your head relaxes any of the thoughts that you're ruminating on, okay? Which rumination is a way of getting that fight or flight going very easily. So pranayama is a great way of pulling yourself out of fight or flight into your parasympathetic nervous system. And in my book, Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle, I talk about that as your rest and digest or your life support system. So we want to get that toned up. And with anyone with autoimmune disease, this is the case. So everybody can do this particular pranayama that's really good for your thyroid. And it doesn't have to be a sick thyroid to do it. So the way you do it is you take a deep breath in, and you don't want to just breathe up into your upper lung lobes. You actually want to breathe all the way down into your belly so that when you inhale, your belly gets pregnant with inspiration. So in other words, it goes out. So you're filling up your belly. So you go deep breath, and then you chant Om through your nose, and it looks like this. Loud as you can, okay? Because the more you do that, the more vibration you get here. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is you want to really go internal. You don't want to be distracted by everything that's around you. You don't want to hear any other sounds except for the bumblebee. So what you're going to do is you're going to take these little ear flaps here, right? And you're going to close them. Now this is the hands-on version. The hands-free version is the one I just told you. So if you're driving, you can drive down the road chanting Om through your nose and bathing your vocal cords with oxygenated blood and really helping your thyroid. So while you're driving, you can do this. The next version you can't do while you're driving, okay? So you can actually plug up your ear flaps here so you can't hear anything. And then there are a couple ways. My husband teaches it this way, where you just put your hands on the top of your head. But Dr. Vasant Lad is one of my Ayurvedic medicine teachers, and he actually teaches that you stimulate the marma points, and marma points are places where your nerves cross in your body. You have 72,000 of those little places where your nerves cross. So these are just a few of them. And if while you're vibrating that head, right, that bumblebee's going, if you activate these marma points here, actually the vibration also stimulates them, so you get a 2-for-1. So you also get a good sinus clearing and some marma point stimulation in those sinuses, and then also right here in your third eye so that you actually have clarity and vision. So we actually, right now, last night was the new moon for May. It's a Taurus moon. And if you want clarity and vision, that's one of the places that we go, is we get in synchronization with the moon cycle. So this moon is a really powerful one for stability and manifestation. So you want clarity on what you want to do next in your life, you want to stimulate this, okay? So what you would do is you would put your fingers like this, and then you would close off your ear flaps, and you close your eyes, you take a deep breath in, and then you chant Om through your nose. Through a whole exhale. So the more that you do this, the longer you have breath control. I'm like some of those, like a stupid party trick kind of person. I can hold my breath longer than anybody, so I could go on forever. But do that, full exhalation. You're going internal, and you want to do that 7 times, 7 full breaths, 7 full chants through your nose. And if you just did it even for like a half an expiration like I did, you can feel that really wonderful vibration around your thyroid, all that oxygenated blood, all that wonderful tonification and drawing down of your fight or flight system to parasympathetic, rest and digest. So doing that before you eat is really wonderful because you're pulling your body into a place that says it's ready to digest. Before you want to engage sexually with anybody, right? You want those hormones for libido. Great to do pranayama because rest and digest also is the feed and breed system. It means that your hormones will be online. Well, what is your thyroid? It's a hormone producing gland. So we always want to be in that space as often as we can where we can feed and breed, rest and digest, or the life support system. So our hormones are all in synchronization with what we want to do. So that's what I want you to understand is pranayama or conscious breathing is actually more powerful than supplements. And if you can do this 7 times twice a day, then every week you'll increase it by 7 more. So this week you would do 7 in the morning, 7 before you go to bed. And then next week you would do 14 in the morning and before bed. And then next week you would do 21 in the morning and before bed. And then you cap at 21. And 21 twice a day. And that's a really great, like you can reverse, your thyroid will love you. You can reverse hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, if you do the other things that I'm talking about. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm looking for, this is another thing, iodine. Now, iodine, hi Dana. Iodine is a very controversial substance, which iodide is on the elemental table. In the world of Hashimoto's disease. And there's a lot of discussion about if iodine is good or bad. And actually, I always think that there's no good or bad of anything. It's just how your body reacts to it. And there's always a consequence to an action. So if you're taking in something that your body's not wanting to have, then you're going to have a consequence to it and a feedback from your body. Iodine is actually just like that. And I want you to treat it in the same way, not think of it as bad or good, but it is an element that our body needs. And on the elemental table, if you go back to your chemistry from high school and middle school, you'll remember that there's a weight to each one of those elements. And iodine, actually iodide, happens to be lighter than fluoride, okay, or bromide, chloride. And so it gets kicked out of the body when those heavier elements take its place. And the thyroid has a lot of receptor sites for iodine. It uses iodide. It's part of your immune system, actually. So it's kind of like an octopus in there with your thyroid. And you know how the octopus throws out ink if it wants to protect itself? Your thyroid does that with iodine when you breathe or eat or ingest in bacteria and viruses. You can think of a little octopus here putting out its ink. Well, you know, if you don't have enough iodine on board, then that part of your immune system doesn't function very well. It's kind of like tonsils. They're also part of your immune system, and when you rip them out, they're not there anymore. So we have a lot of different things we're doing today that really influence how our immune system is able to function the way that it's designed to function. So iodine's one of these. If you use fluoride in your toothpaste, then while that is very good for your teeth, it's actually not good for your thyroid gland. So what you want to do is stay away from sugar and eat according to your body type and know what your food sensitivities are so that your teeth are healthy and happy. And then also you don't have fluoride kicking iodide off your thyroid. Then bromide is in a lot of baked goods, a lot of the processed foods, a lot of bromide there. So you don't want to eat those things either, whole foods. And then you're not going to be kicking that iodide off of your thyroid again. So chloride, chlorinated water, kicks that. And Splenda is made from chloride. So if you're eating a lot of things with Splenda, it's poisonous and toxic, and it also removes iodine from where it needs to be. So what I use is this little 2% tincture of iodine. And what I do is I do patch tests with my patients in my office. And the way you would do that then is you would take a little piece of your forearm here and you would paint iodine on there. And this happens to be all dried up, it looks like. And so you're going to have a 1-inch patch right here on your forearm, and that's going to be brown, the same color as your iodine. And what you'll do is, remember, when you do this, it stains. So you don't want to get iodine all over your clothing. You wait for it to dry. Mine's drying right now. And then you can put your sleeve down. Now, what you want to see is you want that iodine to last for 48 hours so that you can actually visualize the patch that you put there. Now, you can get your arm wet, you can get in the shower, but you can't get in a far infrared sauna. You can't go to hot yoga. Anything that's going to make you sweat profusely, you'll just sweat that iodine right off your arm. The way that this works is, and why I like it, it's not super specific, it's not exact, but it's a nice ballpark about where you are with your iodine level. You can actually do a urine, you can do some spot checking of iodine, doing a test that you have to pay for out of pocket. This is a really nice, inexpensive way of kind of getting in the right ballpark. Now, if you think about, I live in the Seattle area, and when it rains in the Pacific Northwest, when, in the fall, the winter, and the spring, there's already been a lot of moisture. So puddles will form on the top of the Earth's surface when it rains, because the moisture of the ground is already so high, it can't take in that extra rain. So we'll get puddles. Now, in Arizona, if you were to go to Phoenix or that area, and it's been dry for a long time and it rains, the earth is going to go and it's going to suck all of that water down. And you're not going to see a lot of standing puddles. So that's exactly what your body does. If it's deficient in iodine, it's going to suck that down and you're not going to see that patch. Even overnight, it'll be gone. If you have enough iodine on board, it won't suck that down. It won't absorb it the way that it would if you were deficient. And you're going to see that patch there for 48 hours at least. So that's how you can kind of know where you are. Now, the big controversy around iodine is that it can cause goiters on your thyroid if you get too much. So people will read, like on a blog from Dr. Brownstein, for example, iodine is the cat's meow. It's the best thing ever, right? And it's true. You need iodine for your brain. You need it for everything, actually. Your body needs it. So it's like Goldilocks, though. If a little bit's good, a lot is not better. It has to be just right. So what you're doing here is you're seeing what your body needs. You're not looking at a blog and you're not saying, everybody has to have the same amount of iodine, because that's not true for anything. And what you want to do is you want to take your iodine in small incremental levels with a very slow ramp up. You don't want to be taking great big doses of iodine even if you're deficient. So the way we do it in my office is we do this very slow ramping up process. And we use a very tiny micro amount, it's actually in micrograms, of iodine. And we'll give a small amount for 5 days, then we add a little bit to that. And so you do that for 5 days, and then a little bit to that for 5 days. And you go on like that until 3 times a day you have tripled what you started with. And then at that point, you do another patch test and you see if you're still deficient. And if you are, then you can take, like we have a iodine we call Thyroidine on our store on DrKeesha.com that I love. I don't want anyone to take that without doing a patch test. So really important that hi Stacy, hi Ellen, that you understand that everybody's different, and iodine is a very important element for your thyroid and many other functions in the body. It can cause a goiter, especially if you have Hashimoto's, so you need to treat it with respect and know what you're doing. So doing a patch test is a great way, like I said, to get into the ballpark to see where you are with iodine, and then doing a pranayama called Bumblebee breath, which we already did. So do those 2 things as well as what I talk about in solving the autoimmune puzzle. That's general autoimmune reversal. These 2 things are specific for Hashimoto's. And then lastly, this is the 3rd wellness tip for this Wednesday on Hashimoto's, for treating Hashimoto's and reversing it naturally, is the energy of whatever's going on in your body. So there's always an energetic footprint, you could say, to whatever diagnosis that you get. So I was saying this to my Academy for Integrative Medicine health coach students last night on their case study call that I don't really watch the news. So I just live under a rock, I suppose. I'm doing my own work in the world and putting that out there, and I'm not up on the news very often. But I heard that Melania Trump was in the hospital getting a kidney procedure done, embolization. So I had thought in that moment, wow, I wonder what she's pissed off about, because there is an energetic footprint to every single diagnosis. And so if something's wrong with your kidneys, a lot of UTIs, chronic cystitis, there's probably some anger in there that you haven't dealt with. And so it's literally what you're pissed off about. So I thought that, and then as I was taking a walk with my husband yesterday morning, he started laughing and he said, well, Keesha, don't you know what's going on right now? Like all the stuff's coming out about Trump and extramarital affairs, and she's riding in separate cars with him now and things like that. And I said, oh, no, I didn't know that, but now that makes complete sense. So ladies get more Hashimoto's than men, 10-1 actually. And we are taught when we're very young girls not to really speak up for ourselves. Good girls are what we're taught to be, and to caregive everybody. Now, this is definitely a gender stereotype. Not everybody is taught this, but it's kind of a cultural thing. So Hashimoto's, if you think about the energy of it, it really is. It's right here, right? So it's about speaking your truth. And it's about doing so. You don't have to, like as you're healing trauma and you're going back and you're looking at places where you've been hurt in your life, and then figuring out what that was meant to teach you and working on forgiveness work and all of those things. Speaking your truth doesn't mean blaming and shaming people for where you are today. What it does mean, though, is being able to speak up for what your needs are, advocating for yourself. And again, without blaming and shaming, just setting good boundaries. Now, women traditionally have a difficult time because they're not taught really well how to set good boundaries. They're taught to be caregivers. And so this is a skill that has to be learned. And that will be a whole nother talk. But actually in the You Unbroken program that is on my site, on DrKeesha.com, I teach you all about boundary setting. That's a whole nother long discussion. But good boundary setting. This helps reverse Hashimoto's. Being able to say no, being able to say, that doesn't work for me, being able to say, that hurt my feelings, being able to say whatever it is you need to say without blaming and shaming. So it's really standing up for what it is that's going on for you, and then also being able to confront yourself, right? Speak your truth to yourself. In other words, why am I putting this on the end of my fork? Not because I just feel like I want it, but what is it that's making me eat this sugar-filled thing, right? And that's going to be inside of you, not outside of you. So it's being willing to also speak your truth to you. Where are you out of integrity with yourself? Have you said you're going to get up and go exercise every single day and now you're not doing it? Well, that's going to bring some shaming and blaming onto yourself unless you're self-aware enough to say, oh, what's happening right now? Why am I not taking care of myself? And remember that autoimmune disease is a mind, a body, a spirit at war with itself. When you're at war with yourself, there's no winning. And so these are really important things for you to do, is to be able to also self-confront and speak your truth to you. So it's not just about what's outside of you. All right, that's it for the Wednesday wellness tip and reversing Hashimoto's disease naturally. So many women have this issue and have thyroid issues. So if you know somebody that could learn how to do Brahmari breath and learn about iodine and about setting good boundaries and speaking your truth, pass this on to them, because we need to get people away from the idea that there's a pill for an ill and that everybody with Hashimoto's is supposed to be on thyroid medication, because it's absolutely patently untrue. All right, everybody. Have a really wonderful day.